we are going to talk about bullet journaling for self-care. So let me go ahead and share my screen with you. All right, let's get started. So just going to start off with a really basic definition of bullet journaling. So bullet journaling is a very simple organization system that you can use to either as like your to-do list, a collection of your daily thoughts, like a traditional journal, your calendar and your planner. But really it's meant to be all of the above. It's a super simple system that you can do with just some things that you have laying around at home. Um, Also, if you have any questions, feel free to pop them into our Q&A section, or you can also chat us as well. I should be able to see them while we're going here. What you need to start bullet journaling is super easy. You just need a dotted or gridded notebook. These are really easy to find now, whether it's on Amazon, your local stationery shop, or even like bookstores will sell them too. And then a pen or pencils, whatever you prefer working in. And that's it. I'm going to stop the share for a second and show you some things that I use in my bullet journal. So I just started a new one, so this looks like very pretty and brand new right now. But after a while, it will get filled up with stuff. I like to have my favorite pen that has a very fine tip so I can draw things a little bit better. I'm not artistic, but I find that this helps a little bit. I usually have some other pens, like pens with different colors, more calligraphy pens, even though my handwriting is not great. I still feel fancy when I use it. A mechanical pencil. I'll have some fun markers. This is a fine tip marker, as is this, and then this is a brush tip marker. Again, my handwriting's not great, but with these, it makes my handwriting look great. And I usually have these like highlighters to add little accents, a nice eraser, not like just the eraser that comes on a pencil, some washi tape, which is a very paper thin tape that you can adhere to anything. It peels off very nicely if you make a mistake. It comes in all sorts of like fun colors too. And then I don't like to use glue in my bullet journal just because it takes too long to dry. So I also use these like permanent adhesive pens. It almost looks like a whiteout pen if you've ever used those, but it's sticky. So you just kind of tape it onto what you want and then stick it in your journal. So it's great if you find something or if you have these like post-it notes laying around and you're afraid that you're going to lose them. I just stick some of this on there and stick it on. Okay. So that's kind of in my everyday bullet journal thing. All right. Why I like bullet journaling. So I've been working on my bullet journal for I would say about 3 or 4 years now. I started with a more traditional planner. I liked the way that it looked, and then I started making my own essentially in a notebook. Um, it's really easy to use and it's cheap. I think I paid maybe $10 for my notebook, and I probably spent a lot on pens now, but usually, you can just use whatever you have laying around. It's way cheaper than buying an expensive planner that you may or may not use. The other reason I like bullet journaling is that it's easy to adapt. Going back to those expensive planners, once you buy it, you're kind of stuck with the format that comes in it. With bullet journal, you're working with a blank canvas. So if you don't like something, you can scrap it the next week or the next month. If you have an idea for something, you can always add on to it. It's completely adaptable and changeable. And it's forgiving too. The nice thing about the bullet journal system is that although a lot of people use this as their to-do list, it is not something that you have to do. If you don't get to something in the day, you can always move it to another day. So it's a little bit more friendly than more traditional planners. And it can be as in-depth or minimalistic as you need it to be. If you go online, especially Instagram or Pinterest, you're going to see these bullet journals that have like crazy, artistic, beautiful layouts. I cannot draw. My handwriting and hand lettering is not great, so I keep mine more on the minimalist side. And if you're always looking at pretty pens and stickers and kind of stuff like that, it is an excuse to buy those things. But again, it's not necessary to do bullet journaling with those things. Does anyone have any questions about the bullet journaling system before we go into the more self-care part of this? Once I figure out how to get the Q&A to show, or the chat. Okay. No questions yet, but if you think of any, is it like a diary? Yes, it can be used as a diary. I personally, mine probably skews more towards the planner side than the diary side, but yes, you can use it as a diary. I can show you what this week kind of looks like for me. So again, I've only started using this, but I'll usually put this side, the day of the week here, things that I need to do here, and then if I'm doing more diary entries, I'll keep it to a sentence. Some people use this as more of a journal, and will put their to-do list in a smaller area of that, but you can definitely use it as a more diary, journal, travelogue, that kind of thing. Any other questions? Nothing yet. If you have any, pop them in the chat or the Q&A, and I'll get to them once I figure out how Zoom will let me know when I have one. Okay. And what is self-care? So I feel like this term is bandied about a lot, but the definition can not be as clear as it can be. But self-care is any activity that you can do deliberately and with intention in order to take care of your health, whether that is your mental health, your emotional health, or your physical health. And it's become more important now than ever. The world is a little weird right now, and we're taking on a lot, physically, emotionally, and mentally, and just taking time, whether it's a minute or even an hour for yourself and not getting caught up in the grind of everything else is super important to make sure that you're doing okay. I think the hardest part of me for building a self-care routine into my bullet journaling is to remember that it's not an indulgence and it's not selfish, and it doesn't have to be time consuming. It's something that you can do for yourself in very little time if you want to, and you can make it a regular thing to make sure that you're doing okay. So it's not a bad word, self-care. It's a really good thing, and I find that the bullet journal system really helps for that. The way that it helps is that it's a great way to check in with yourself, to make sure that you're feeling okay. This can be as simple as like taking a little note about how you're feeling that day or what you're doing. Some people, as you can see in this picture, kind of go all out and make these big tracker modules. Again, if you go on the internet and like Google these things, you're going to see very elaborate layouts like this with like pretty pens that do watercolor techniques and all this fun stuff, but it doesn't have to be something like this. This tracker is very nice, but it would also just be as easy as to take a note for that day, like feeling stressed out today, or didn't get great sleep, or I took this many steps that day. And I'll show you some modules that aren't as elaborate as this pinwheel function that you could use in your own daily practice. There you go. So this is my old bullet journal. I just started this one in June, so I don't have it as full as I usually do, but this is kind of what my usual layout looks like. I'll have a month planned out at the beginning. In the past, I would put any events or vacations I was going into, but that has changed a little bit. I also track all of my writing that I do, and then I will break that out into weeks, put any events that I have going on, whether it's for work or for personal. And then on that right hand side over here, I will put any of my to dos. I've kind of shifted away from a weekly log of to dos and then changed it to a daily log, especially when I was working from home. I just found that a little bit easier to manage because I had more time. So I can't draw. I am not artistic. So I rely a lot on washi tape and stickers to decorate. And like different colored pens and highlighters, like what I showed you before. It kind of just makes it more fun and more personal. Sometimes I'll plan ahead and add those things in, but sometimes just the day of, if I find a cool picture or a quote that I like, I'll just add it into there. So you don't have to be an artist to have a bullet journal. You don't even have to be organized to have a bullet journal. You just have to have, you know, a little bit of time and energy to devote to something like this. Um, any questions about self-care, how to set up your bullet journal, any kind of thing like that? Um, I personally like the bullet journal website is 100% free, and has all the exact tools on how to start bullet journaling. And they've since published a book, I think 2 years ago, called The Bullet Journal Method. How far ahead do you set up your journal? I usually do 2 months out now. For a while, I would do like the whole year, but then I would find halfway through the year I wasn't using certain things. So, like right now, I have June and July set up in my bullet journal, um, and that's it. Sometimes I'll do 3 months. Right now, with things being how they are, I'm just doing every 2 months. But that's a good question. And again, some people do daily logging. I do weekly logging because some weeks, you're on vacation and you're not using it as much. I don't want to take up that much page space just because I'm out of town. Any other questions? All right, let's get back. So I usually start with a self-care cheat sheet. Since I just started this journal, I haven't made mine in this yet, but I've devoted at least 2 pages to make this. Um, Honestly, for me, it was hard to get into a self-care routine because I didn't know what to do. um, and so I like the idea of having a cheat sheet to almost have like an idea list to jumpstart your way um, back to feeling better. Um, so it doesn't take that long. There's tons of lists for self-care ideas on the internet. If you want to jumpstart yours with some ideas. Um, but I think if you sit down for 10 to 20 minutes, like put on a podcast or some nice music or like a TV show in the background so it's not just noise, you can think of some ideas. Like I like some of these, and they don't have to be things that you pay for either. Like taking a walk um, in a very social distanced way, totally possible right now. Going outside in your backyard and getting some sun, looking at that laundry pile and taking some time to fold it, putting your phone on silent and walking away from it. Like these are all things that you can do for free. And if you have the extra money and as things open back up, you can always think of other things like go to a Pilates class or a yoga class or a meditation class, um, get your hair or nails done, go out for something. I know it's a little weird to make the list probably right now because the outside activities that you can do are limited, but hopefully, when everything becomes a little bit normal, it's something that you could consider. If you did bring some paper and some pens and want to start jotting down stuff now, feel free to do it while I keep talking. As ideas come, just like note them down. I always like to stick to a schedule for self-care stuff too. Um, and the bullet journal is really great for that. If you're using it as like part diary, part planner, you can always schedule time for your self-care in your bullet journal. So you would almost treat these moments like you would an appointment. Um, and at the start of this, it's really hard to think about where you can schedule those times. Uh, maybe not right now when everyone is at home, but when you're working every day and you just want to come home and not do anything and relax and not think about how terrible your day was, it can be hard to think of a time. But when it comes to self-care, that those self-care moments don't have to be in half hour or an hour. It could be 5 minutes. So I have some tips on the right hand side about, depending on how you plan, how you can schedule these moments. For people who plan out day to day, I always like to sit down in the morning while I'm having my coffee or my tea or whatever your vice of the morning is, just taking some time to think about some small moments that you can do where you can take a break. Um, it could be as small as, you know what, I'm going to take my lunch outside today because I know it's going to be nice and sunny and not too hot. Maybe I'll go for a hike around my neighborhood and just see how many pretty flowers I can see. Or I know I have a really hard meeting at 2 afterwards. I'm going to take 5 minutes to myself in the quiet and just recenter myself. For weekly planners, you can commit to bigger intentions once a week. So if you are looking at the week ahead and see that you know you're going to be working more hours than usual, you can kind of almost set out a reward after that hard work. I always like to save like something that I really wanted to read for Fridays, so I can look forward to reading that book I've been wanting to read all week. Now that parks and like hiking trails have opened up a little bit more, you can plan a hike outside of your neighborhood, um, and just kind of like unplug and get into some nature. And for monthly planners, it's nice to plan ahead for some bigger moments where you can take some time. Again, things are a little weird, but if you know you have a really big presentation in the middle of the month, maybe you can schedule something ahead of time and have like a spa day after the big presentation. Or work is really tough and I know I will have a break on the 13th, so maybe I will take the 13th off and just have a nice day at home where I take care of my chores and don't look at work stuff all day. So the bullet journal can be super, super helpful for things like that if you are willing to use them. One big thing about the bullet journal system is rapid logging. And if you look in the picture, you can kind of see it. Rapid logging is a super short, concise way to make a list, but also to do that diary method I was talking about. Um, if you kind of just want to let it all out in the moment, like you saw something on the news and it really made you mad, or you're just really frustrated with the day to day. I really like the rapid logging system to just get it all out. Um, Bullet journals have a specific iconography that they use for their method, which you can see in the picture here. It's like X's, arrows, circles, that kind of thing. I use my own because frankly, I forget what they all mean and I like to keep my things really simple. So if something happens that bums me out, I'll just use like the minus sign and make a note of it. Like maybe I didn't sleep very well, or I had a nightmare, or I read something online that got me in a tizzy. But I'll always try to also log the happy things. I think it can be really hard to uh, note the good things. It's easy to remember the bad things, but it's hard to remember the good things. So I'll use a little bullet point to signify things that make me happy, like saw a friend after work and talked in their backyard, found a new TV show that I really like, and it's a good way to like turn my brain off. And I'll just keep it to a sentence or two. Um, If I'm really feeling wordy, sometimes I'll do 3 sentences. And there are definitely some bullet journalers that I've seen that use their system as more of a traditional diary and make their to-do list a very short, rapid logging section, and then use the rest as a diary section. So you can do both, you can do all. But sometimes when you're just in the moment, you want to like get your frustrations out. So I like the rapid logging system for that. So this is something that I have in my bullet journal called a gratitude list. That's what I've seen it called. I call it Small Wonders in mine. There is a podcast I listen to called Wonderful, and it's just about things that are wonderful. And it's a husband and wife team that talk about things that they like every week. So I named it after that. But it's just every time I think of something nice, I note it down. I have a picture, but the picture's not that great. So let me open up my bullet journal. Um, there we go. So this is June, and I have a small wonders section. Oops, wrong side. Right here, where I note down just things in the month of June that have been making me happy. So far, I have um, growing my indoor plant cuttings and watching them grow and nurturing their health, and then the garden that I started outside. So I'll add to this throughout the month, and it's just a nice way to like take a minute and be like, okay, things are weird right now, but these things are bringing me a little bit of happiness. And it can be something big or small. It doesn't have to be anything prophetic. The person that's using this is you. So it doesn't have to be something totally crazy. Um, let me go back. So that's just a better picture of what that looks like. I've seen people also make like a whole 2 pages for their gratitude list or small wonders, whatever you want to call it. Um, I like I just started doing this in this current bullet journal, so I'm keeping it to the small area now. But we'll see how it grows and changes throughout the months. Um, I started trying out this one too, the compliment log. Um, it feels a little bit silly at first, but it's just a log that you can make a 2 page spread of, like this person has here, where you note down compliments that have been um, said about you during that month, or the time that you have your bullet journal. It feels really weird to write down what other people say about you, because again, I think it's very easy to remember the negative over the positive. But I think seeing this list grow over time and seeing the reasons why you're wonderful and why you rock so much can be really powerful at the end of the month, or the year, what have you. It can be something small like someone said my hair looks great even though I haven't washed it in 2 weeks, or wow, I helped someone out with this project and we presented it and it went really well, and they said how much it meant to them that my help made a difference. It doesn't matter the magnitude of the compliment, just as you write it down. I feel like this is probably one of the tougher ones on this list of bullet journal methods because um, it almost feels like bragging, and I feel like us as people have been taught not to brag about ourselves. But if it's just for you, I think it's okay to brag. So this kind of goes back to what I showed you all earlier with that pinwheel method. In bullet journaling, these are called modules, and you can use these modules to track your well-being. I know the picture is a little hard to see, and maybe I can find it and make it bigger and show you all later if you're interested. But this person has made various graphs to track a certain week and how they're spending their time. So there's one for health, how they've been sleeping, how much water they're getting, what exercise routines they've been doing, and what they've been eating. They also have how they're spending their time, whether it's like watching TV, family time, reading. I can't really read the body one. I think it's like how they've been taking care of themselves physically, and then how much family time they're spending too. But really, you can make these modules for anything. It could be, I've seen ones for water intake, like how much water you're drinking every day. I've seen a lot for sleep schedules, like how long are you sleeping, how much are you sleeping, is your sleeping intermittent, that kind of thing. A daily meditation tracker, um, exercise ones, of course, moods. I've even seen ones for like weather and tracking that with their emotions. So these are a little bit more nebulous, but when it comes to modules, I like to think of what I'm actually going to use it for. Um, I personally am just not good about logging about what I eat or drink or anything like that. So I tend to shy away from those type of modules, but especially if you're doing something for your doctor and you have to track what you eat, your bullet journal is a really good way to retain that information. Or if you just want to see, how you're spending your time or try to develop good habits, the modules will be a really good way to do that. Um, for modules, I usually like to sketch out how I want them to look on a separate piece of paper and then draw them in pencil in my journal. And then I'll go back with like cool markers or what have you to make it a little bit spiffier. But I am not great at spatial awareness sometimes, so that's why I like to draw it out first and then see how it works. So modules can be a really good way of tracking stuff. You can even use it for your reading, but for your well-being, there's a lot of different ways to do it. And that's also why I like the dotted or gridded notebooks. It's easier to draw a chart or a graph when you have little bullet points to follow. And the best part about bullet journaling is if you don't like something, you can just get rid of it. Again, I have this new one that I'm trying out some new things with for June and July. But if I get to the end of the July and I'm like, you know what, I'm not even using my like goal setting area that I set up, um, I'm not going to do it for August and September. Um, that's why I also don't like to plan out too far ahead. If I like make all these trackers and expect myself to use them for the next 6 months, and then I get to month 3 and I'm like, I haven't used any of them, it can kind of be a bummer that you've like set this intention and you haven't been able to follow through. So I like to see what I'm using and be realistic about it. The whole thing is like, don't be hard on yourself. If it's not working, stop doing it. Um, so that's everything I have about bullet journaling today. Um, does anyone have any questions, or do you want to work on a bullet journal thing together? I have some blank pages and I can kind of pivot my laptop so you can see how I'm doing my journal. No, no questions, no comments. Do you prefer to set separate goals? Goal categories. Um, right now I'm not. Let me show you. Here we go. So I made these, there you go, 2 pages that come after my month. So I'm trying something new and tracking my reading in my bullet journal. I just have my goals for the month and then I have like the review reading I have to do. So right now my goals are just super general. I just have one right now because I'm still trying it out. But you could totally have goal categories and split them up different ways. Like I want to read 50 books this month. Here's my module for tracking that. I want to drink more water and tracking how many ounces you do. So I can see goal setting and that modules idea going well together. But again, it's all personal preference. I'm a very different planner than I think the bullet journal method was intended for. But the reason I like to use the method in general is that you can change however you want to do it on the fly. It's very open ended. Oh, there's something in the Q&A. How do you keep track of everything? I'm pretty sure I would stick with it for like a week and then end up end up forgetting about it. Yeah, it's definitely hard to start. And when I started, I actually started with a journal that kind of mimics my weekly layout. Like these pages were printed out by the person, and then it would just have a blank page. So that helped me figure out what I liked. And then I was able to take that and just start making my own. I carry it around with me everywhere, which also helps too. I put it in my work backpack and I bring it around. I generally don't use it as much on the weekends because I like that to be my relaxing time. Um, but there are some people that do treat this like their diary and bring it around everywhere. But it's like building any kind of habit, whether it's eating better, exercising, whatever, it's just regularity. Seeing if you want to use it, checking in, trying to do it every day or at least the majority of the week. It's the easiest way to start using it. But also, that's why I also recommend if you are thinking about starting it, buy one of those cheap, like dollar composition notebooks that have the dotted texture, which again might be hard to see on the camera, but yeah, I don't know if you can see it, but it's just like little dots. But you can also get the gridded ones really easy too. And start with that. Then your investment is $1. And if you don't use it, you can rip out those pages and use it for anything else. Anything else? I can also, if I can ever get back to the chat, I can pop in the bullet journal method website. Again, it's totally free. He does have a book out that we have at the library, but I learned everything just from the system. He even has a video tutorial now that takes 5 minutes. But everything is on his website. And at this point now, so many people have become like almost like bullet journal influencers that they have their own guides too. So I put the learn link in our chat if you want to look at it. But the website is very nice, and they even have in their blog session some ideas to do this digitally. I personally like the handwriting part of it. It makes me feel like I will actually use it, as opposed to something online I might forget to update it. And I think they even have an app now that you can use, and it's free. I don't know exactly how it works because it just came out. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Well, if you do have any, you can always email me. Let me throw my email address on a slide so you can have it. And if you're interested in having this presentation emailed to you, just let me know and I can send it to you. I have it on a Google Drive, so you can access it whenever. So let me hit this. Oops. No problem. All right. So here is my email address. It is aditmeyer@brookfieldlibrary.info. I also have a presentation that I did at the library maybe 2 years ago that goes into step-by-step methods on how to set up your bullet journal. Those are also on the bullet journal method website, but if you want something a little bit easier to follow, I can totally send that to you as well. There's something in the chat and I can't see it. Oh yeah, not a problem. So yeah, if you have questions, let me know. I also made a recording of this, so if you would like it later, it should be sent to you tomorrow. So I hope everyone has a really great weekend, and I will see you soon. Bye.